What's up, everybody? True Boxing here. Thank you for coming back to Get Hit with the Truth. Today, continuing my 2021 year-end top 10s, as we are going to look at my number 2 super featherweight in the world right now at 130 pounds, Shakur Stevenson, the undefeated WBO super featherweight champ. Stevenson entered this year at number 10, tied for 10th, and he really still didn't have that signature, that one big signature victory on his resume, and he was hoping to land it this year at 130 pounds. You know, he had dominated guys like Christopher Diaz and Joet Gonzalez, but again, he really needed that big oh wow signature win, and he was the number 1 contender waiting around for a title shot. But because Jamel Herring got approved to fight Carl Frampton in the first half of the year, he needed to get a fight in before he would get the winner. So in June, Stevenson would take on Jeremiah Nakathila, and the vacant WBO interim title was on the line, and he dominated Nakathila over 12 rounds, but didn't really risk himself because Nakathila was a big puncher. So he kind of, scored a lackluster 12-round unanimous decision, stayed undefeated, but a lot of people wanted to see him amp it up, and he would get the opportunity in October as he would cash in on his mandatory and take on the WBO champion Jamel Herring. This was looked at as a, older versus younger guy matchup, and was the younger guy too talented and too good to lose, or was the veteran too skilled to lose this fight, too experienced? I went into this fight picking Stevenson to win by a blowout, by a wide margin. I felt like he could win by a stoppage as well, but Herring is a tough fighter, and I knew that he might be able to pull it off. But if Stevenson was going to be the guy, that the future pound-for-pound king, I felt like matchup-wise, it was a bad matchup for Herring, and it reminded me a lot of Erislandy Lara and Austin Trout. I've said that before. That kind of matchup. That's how I viewed it, and I really believe in that fight that Lara would beat Austin Trout convincingly, and he did. He just was younger and a little more slick, and that's what happened in this fight right here. Is Stevenson just picked apart Jamel Herring and dominated him and stopped him, beat him up, bloodied him, and stopped him in the 10th round of that fight impressively. He was talking trash to him. Stevenson was ready for his big show and performance, and he got it in this fight, dominating Jamel Herring, scoring a 10th round TKO victory and capturing a championship in his second weight class. That moved him all the way up to finish number 2 on the year, and he's not far behind Oscar Valdez. He really isn't for the division, but because Burchell upended the previous number 1 guy, Valdez upended the previous number 1 guy in Burchell, I gave Valdez just slightly the top spot over Stevenson, but not by much. But now going forward, let's look at Stevenson's stats now. So Stevenson, again, he was previously tied for 10th, so he moves up 8 spots. Only 24 years old, this guy. Wow, he's so young, and he's so good. 17-0, 9 knockouts, and he's rolling right now. But, Oscar Valdez, earlier in the year when he knocked out Miguel Burchell, said he wanted the winner of Stevenson and Herring. When he defeated Robson Conceição in September, they asked him, who do you want to fight? He said he wanted the winner of Stevenson and Herring. Now, Oscar Valdez isn't saying shit, and I think the reason is Bob Arum does not want to throw Valdez against Shakur Stevenson. He doesn't want anything to do with him. He knows it's a bad matchup, and he knows Oscar Valdez is going to get his ass whipped if he fights Shakur Stevenson. And, to me, that's a shame when Valdez, though, is the number 1 guy now, and he's been calling Stevenson out. He said he wanted to fight the winner. Now's the opportunity. They're both top-ranked guys, and they both, and Stevenson was the mandatory, and Valdez beat his mandatory in Conceição. So right now, there's no reason why this fight shouldn't happen next. Bob Arum was looking for Valdez to fight Emmanuel Navarrete, moving him up, and now Navarrete is done with top rank, I believe, and can do what he wants at 126. So that fight doesn't look likely, but I don't see why Bob Arum wouldn't want to promote his star Stevenson even more by throwing him in against Valdez to unify belts and declare a true #1 fighter at 130, especially if he wants an eventual showdown between Shakur Stevenson and Vasily Lomachenko, because Bob Arum said he wanted to make that fight and that it could be possible in 2022, but then Lomachenko shut it down and said he wants to fight for the undisputed title at 135. So, you know, the only thing that would entice him to come down is an undisputed title fight. So, you know, right now there's a couple title belts that are tied up. The other two belts are tied up. The IBF and the WBA belts are tied up. Why not make a unification bout between Stevenson and Valdez? Especially, as I said, Valdez was calling out for the winner of Stevenson and Herring, and he got a clear-cut winner. So this fight should be made. There's no reason why it shouldn't be made. So I'm hoping that Shakur Stevenson gets this fight with Oscar Valdez. I don't see why it shouldn't happen, but the politics of boxing, you know, might ruin it, but I don't see how when they're both with top rank. So for me, Valdez is running scared if he does not get his ass in the ring with Shakur Stevenson. Plain and simple. There are no ifs, ands, or buts about it. That is a fact. He's running scared if he does not fight Shakur Stevenson next. So we'll see what happens. But Valdez has been running from Stevenson for a couple years now, since he ran from the featherweight division as champion when Stevenson was sitting there as his mandatory #1 contender. And now, you know, that they're both champions in 1 and 2 respectively, this fight should happen, but we'll see. So that's it. That's my 2021 year-end top 10 video on my #2 super featherweight in the world, the undefeated WBO champion, Shakur Stevenson of the United States. I hope you guys enjoyed it. True Boxing, you've been hit with the truth.